But the attorney, Robert Y. Lewis, has an answer for that. He reckons that the inclusion of the dollar bill makes the baby look like a sex worker. Ah! What are you doing? This video is brought to you by Magellan TV. Yes, more on them in a bit. Imagine you're a man walking into a crowded room packed full of complete strangers and knowing with some degree of certainty that the majority of them have probably seen a depiction of your wedding tackle. Wedding tackle is such a weird way of saying penis. And balls. It's something that the biblical figure David, Jesus Christ, and LA native Spencer Eldon all share in common. Spencer Eldon's penis has been glimpsed by tens of millions of music lovers from when he appeared as the naked underwater baby grasping for a dollar bill on a fishhook on the cover of Nirvana's classic 1991 album Nevermind. I feel like everyone knows that picture, even if you've never listened to the album. And I don't think I've really ever listened to Nevermind all the way. I know like Nirvana, of course I do, because it's like da 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 da. No, that's the White Stripes, isn't it?
Excuse me, what are you doing?
How's that Smells Like Teen Spirit go? I know this, of course I know the song. Nirvana are fine. Almost exactly 30 years later, Spencer Eldon is all grown up, but he's still very much grasping for dollars. After dining out on the cover star fame for most of his life, he's suddenly decided to sue his favourite band on the grounds that the image is child pornography. But why now? Probably because he ran out of money.
Help me, I'm poor.
No.
Is that really? It is a pretty epic claim to fame, right? Can you imagine just being some random dude? It's like, what did he get to in regular life? Oh, well, he ended up being like a real estate agent. And you just meet someone and be like, what's interesting about you? You know that album, Nevermind, with the baby on the front? I am that baby. Everyone in the world would be like, bullshit, don't believe you, because it's the sort of lie you could tell. You know, like you go to a job interview and be like, tell me something unusual about yourself. Or like, in a team building exercise, I was the Nirvana Nevermind baby. Someone else in that room scratching that one out be like, can't use that one, can I? Because no one, how are you ever going to prove different? I mean, I guess you could Google it and find out it's actually this Spencer Eldon dude. I gotta be careful, he's litigious.
In a stunning turn of events, a superhero is being sued.
It would all have been very different if the grunge band's legendary singer and songwriter Kurt Cobain had got his way. He originally wanted the Nevermind cover to depict a mother giving birth underwater. Holy sh**. But the record label, DGC Records, a division of Geffen, were concerned that store owners might see this as a bit too graphic to display alongside Michael Bolton and MC Hammer. I had no idea who Michael Bolton was until I was listening to The Lonely Island, and they had like a cover song, like not a cover song, like they sang a song with Michael Bolton. And they were talking about like Michael Bolton and all of this, and I was like, Michael Bolton's really famous and I've never heard of him. I mean, I had heard of him because he's in the Office Space movie. There's the character called Michael Bolton, and they keep making these Michael Bolton jokes, which I didn't get. And I guess I thought I just didn't look up who Michael Bolton was, and I was like, oh, I see, but not that Michael Bolton. What are we talking about? What's going on here? Oh, by the way, this is business, no, correction, this is Brain Blaze. What happens here? Danny writes me a script, I'm going to read it. Sam is going to sprinkle in some fine vintage memes and maybe talk about my bionic ass. Let's go. So a compromise was reached in which a photograph of a naked baby underwater was used, swimming alongside a digital composition of a dollar bill dangling on a fishhook. One theory suggests that the artwork represents the social expectation to start chasing money from the moment you were born. Another suggests that the band are satirizing themselves after signing up to a big, dirty corporate record label for the release of this follow-up to their debut album, Bleach, released on the indie sub-pop label in 1989. When the photograph of the 4-month-old baby Spencer Eldon was first taken at the Rose Bowl Aquatic Center in Pasadena, the baby's father, Rick, apparently had no idea that it would end up on the cover of one of the most brilliant and influential rock albums of all time. Yeah, I mean, why would he? How would he possibly think that? He was like, no, wait. He was shooting images for Getty Images. Rick was good friends with the photographer, Kurt Weddle, and had accepted a vague invitation to throw his kid in the drink in exchange for the sum of $200. Oh, wait. So this was actually a professional photograph. I guess that makes more sense. The family were never destined to receive much more in the way of financial compensation from one of the most iconic images in rock history, adorning an album which would go on to shift more than 30 million copies. Yes, of course. Of course, because he was paid $200. This is what this insane. The idea that the guy whose kid it is should get paid more money because he... $200 back in the day? Probably like close to $1,000 or whatever today. It's like, that is good money. You don't get anything else. It's the photographer who gets the money. He's the one who made the business. This is so... No one's actually making this argument, but I get a feeling it's going to be made later, and it's a stupid argument. After Nevermind shifted its first million, DGC Records sent a small token of their appreciation to the Eldon family, a platinum copy of the album, and a cute little teddy bear. 30 years later, it's not clear if Spencer still has the teddy bear, but he does appear to have grown a grudge. In August of 2021, Spencer Eldon filed a lawsuit in a federal court in California which accuses the defendants of child sexual exploitation. It's ridiculous. Actually ridiculous.
Why don't you go across the street and buy some condoms? Because we should at least be safe if you're gonna fuck me, Mom!
You what?
The lawsuit suggests that they knowingly produced, possessed, and advertised commercial child pornography, which had resulted in Spencer suffering from lifelong damages, emotional distress, and loss of earnings. Oh, Spencer. Like Danny said, you've been dining out on this your whole life. You get to say you were the Nevermind baby. That is unquestionably cool. And shut the up. He's now seeking $150,000 from a list of 15 defendants, which include surviving band members Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic, the executor of Kurt Cobain's estate, Courtney Love, and photographer Kirk Weddle, and the record labels who now own a stake in the rights to the music. Slightly confusingly, the lawsuit also names original drummer Chad Channing, who had been replaced long before work had even begun on Nevermind, but I suspect Spencer was just getting a bit carried away. Can you imagine being Chad Channing or whatever? And it's like, you get a lawsuit in 2021 from a band that you left before the thing that they're getting sued for even happens. It'd be like, oh, for sake, do I have to get a lawyer again? For sake, Nirvana, and for American legal system. But do you know what is the opposite of all of that nonsense? Today's glorious sponsor, Magellan TV. Magellan TV is a documentary streaming service founded by filmmakers who love history. They say, for the love of history here. And I don't really understand that sentence. Can you say founded by filmmakers for the love of history? I mean, I guess it makes sense, but it's kind of awkward and sounds all old school English. Look, it's founded by filmmakers who love history. That makes way more sense. Their mission is to tell the great stories that have defined the human experience. That is a bold goal, chaps. And with more than 3,000 excellent programs available on Magellan, it's hard to stop watching once you start. They've got everything from the Greeks to the Great War, plus modern history, biography, scientific profiles, true crime, and so much more. And their team adds new content every week, which is great. I mean, I do feel, however, with streaming services, it's not like you're ever going to run out of content. There's 3,000 programs. You'll be like, nah, watch them all. I'm waiting for the new stuff. I mean, it's great they add the new stuff, but I mean, 3,000 programs? I go on to Magellan. I'm like, oh my god, it's okay. Yeah, I can watch that. Yeah, I can watch that. Yeah, I could watch that. I mean, honestly, I end up watching so little TV these days because I work a lot. I got a young kid. I go to bed at like 9 o'clock. So it's like my TV consumption has dramatically dropped in the last 2 years, but I still managed to squeeze in some Magellan, which is nice. There's so much luck. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the one who's never going to run out. But people are like, Simon, I'm a student. I don't have any kids. I'm just ready to... If I had this when I was a student, I'd be like, where's the new content, Magellan? Oh, it's been 3 weeks since I've watched everything, literally everything. I watched so much TV as a student, it was unreal. Mostly hungover. They have entire playlists of curated content covering both macro and micro facets of antiquity in the Roman Empire. Okay, I mean, that's great. They've got loads of stuff. Okay, I guess I'm recommending Rome today. Rome, Empire Without Limits. I've seen stuff on music. I'm not sure if I've watched any of their music stuff. There was one I wanted to watch. I think I put it in my queue. It was about just sound in general, not just music, but sound and how it can be used in medicine and science and all this crazy stuff, which I suppose is really far away from the subject of today's video, but it's what I got reminded of. Right now, you guys can get a 1-month free trial with Magellan by clicking the link in the description below. You'll be glad you did. Yeah, you will. Check it out. Although this lawsuit may appear to have completely come out of the blue, it's fair to say that Spencer has occasionally expressed reservations about the photograph over the years. When he turned 16, he told the Sunday Times that he found it kind of creepy that so many people have seen me naked. I feel like the world's biggest porn star. I'm not sure you know what a porn star is. What was your name, you knob? Spencer? At the time of, allegedly, at the age of 25, he revealed, when I go to a baseball game and think, man, everybody at this baseball game has probably seen my little baby penis, I feel like I got part of my human rights revoked. Spencer, you really need to shut up, don't you? Don't you? You sound like a mega snowflake. Oh my god, Spencer's gonna sue me for $150,000.
In a stunning turn of events, a superhero is being sued.
But it's also fair to say that Spencer embraced the fame and took pride in the photograph of the majority of the last 3 decades. For starters, the guy has a massive Nevermind tattoo emblazoned right across his chest. As he readily admits that the fame helps him attract girls at college and open doors to his career as an artist. And perhaps most significantly, he was happy to get paid handsomely by the press to proudly recreate the underwater pose on no less than 5 different occasions to celebrate anniversary milestones of the album's release. He always kept his shorts on for those to protect his modesty, although during the most recent anniversary shoot in 2016 for the New York Post, he requested to go completely nude, but the paper referred him to cover up within their pages. That was 5 years before you sued these people, mate. What are you up to? This is so frivolous. During the accompanying interview, he lamented, it'd be nice to have a quarter for every person that has seen my baby penis. And also just fundamental lack of understanding of business. It's clear that Spencer feels a bit miffed that he hasn't seen a bigger paycheck from his fame, and it's also very interesting to note that shortly before this lawsuit was filed, he tried reaching out to Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic to ask them to participate in his new art show, but his requests were snubbed. Yeah, because these dudes are f***ing busy. If some random ass person who barely had anything to do with me in the past was like, Simon, can you come to my art show? I'd be like, when? And they'd be like, yes, it's next Tuesday at this place. And I'll be like, no, I'm busy. I'm generally always busy. And I don't want to be like, I'm not going to do anyone who knows me a favor. Because I really, I don't know, I'm very happy to do people who knows me favors. But of course, what's his face? Grohl is going to be busy. He's mega famous. He's one of the biggest rock stars ever. If I'm too busy, Dave Grohl is definitely too busy. But this preposterous lawsuit looks likely to sink without trace. The lawsuit alleges that Spencer's parents never authorized the use of the image, but that seems to conflict with their often told anecdote of the $200 exchange between the father and his photographer buddy. The fact that Spencer has repeatedly and openly embraced his celebrity status over the last 3 decades will not go in his favor in a lawsuit which largely hinges on the image being legally classified as sexualized. If you're looking at that image and you think it's sexualized, there's something mentally wrong with you.
Dirty mother.
It's hard to see how a perfectly natural photograph of a baby in the water could be defined as overtly sexualized, but the attorney Robert Y. Lewis has an answer for that. He reckons that the inclusion of the dollar bill makes the baby look like a sex worker. What are you doing? If either Robert Y. Lewis or Spencer Eldon really believe that the cover of Nevermind depicts a sex worker baby, I think that maybe they need to start swimming in different circles. Oh my god, Danny and I, same page. It would obviously be a big hoot if Spencer won the lawsuit, as over 30 million copies of the album would suddenly become illegal overnight. And maybe it would pave the way for a rethink of all those hundreds of Renaissance paintings in which baby Jesus is dangling his penis in front of a crowd of awestruck worshippers. But the only thing that will arise from this farce is Spencer Eldon's tragic fall from grace as he loses his super cool status and evolves into the big baby still fishing for dirty dollars after all these years in a manner that smells like mean spirits. Oh, but a boom boom cha! Again, maybe the record label should have listened to Kurt Cobain when they first expressed reservations about a baby penis appearing on the cover. Kurt Cobain wanted a woman giving birth underwater. I don't think Kurt Cobain had any reservations about anything.
I still have a lot of the same friends that I used to have, so they don't seem to mind.
He suggested that covering up with a sticker would read, "If you're offended by this, you must be a closet pedophile." Also no. But it's like, I'm not a pedophile, but do I want to look at naked babies all the time? I don't know. I don't mind it, but also, no, I wouldn't cover it up. I don't know. I don't think it says anything. It's just a naked baby picture. It doesn't mean anything. Spencer Eldon isn't the only reluctant cover star who grew misgivings about his childhood appearance on a best-selling album. In a slightly more credible case, unemployed chef David Fox from Scunthorpe in the UK threatened to file a lawsuit against the English rock band Placebo in 2012, 16 years after he was slapped on the cover of their self-titled debut album from 1996. David had been only 12 when he was asked by his cousin photographer to pose to a few photographs for his personal use. Wearing an oversized red pullover, young David was encouraged to tug on his cheeks and pull his face downwards in a mock grimace, which naturally made him look a bit silly. David's family were taken by surprise when his cousin casually announced a few months later that one of these shots was going to appear on the front cover of a new album from a completely unknown rock band called Placebo.
I remember once at school, this is one of, you have those embarrassing memories where you cringe at. I remember once I was not, into Placebo or Nirvana and stuff like that. I was just, I don't know, whatever. I wasn't into it. And then there was a kid at school and he had a Placebo t-shirt on. It was like an own clothes day because we have to wear a uniform to school. And I asked him, what's Placebo? And he was like, it's Placebo! Ah! And then he told everyone that I pronounced it Placebo. And it was, cringe whistle boy!
Oh, there's a fucking surprise.
What'd you say?
They were even more, although thinking back on it, that kid was a bit of a dickhead. I like that guy, but in retrospect, I cringe about that memory. But in retrospect, I wasn't the dickhead in that situation, was I?
It's funny how as adults we look at things differently.
I haven't thought about that in a very long time, but now I'm like, okay, cool. Childhood trauma resolved.
They were even more surprised when the band, often described as the glam rock Nirvana, suddenly hit big time in the UK and the album went platinum. David's gormless expression was now plastered all over billboards and TV commercials and magazines and t-shirts, but this unfortunately led to an unwelcome dose of teenage angst. Although he claimed to be popular at school, David now found himself going through an intense period of bullying.
At least he knew how to pronounce Placebo, but Placebo.
Both from his former mates and teachers over the deeply unflattering photograph. The bullying got so bad that he eventually had to be pulled out of school, and he spent the next few years drifting in and out of different schools, until eventually dropping out of the system completely before he'd even taken his GCSEs.
This guy has a lot more to stand on, because he didn't give permission for the photograph to be used. It was just for personal use, it's just a photograph, He didn't get permission, he didn't get a release or whatever. There was no money exchanged. This guy's got a case, I would say.
By 2012, David was a redundant chef, and very clearly, he can't be a redundant and can you be a chef if you're redundant? Because then you're not a chef, are you? I assume a chef is... Although I suppose you could be, if I didn't make YouTube videos, then I wouldn't be a YouTuber, would I? If I didn't cook, I wouldn't be a chef. It's very confusing. And clearly very unhappy about how his cousin had treated him. He claims that he had no idea how much money his cousin made from the photograph, but David never received a penny. Cousin is a dick, assuming cousin got paid a lot. But David never received a penny and his parents never signed any permission forms. Maybe David Fox had something of a point on this one, but then he made himself look very silly again. Less than a year after claiming the photograph ruined his life, he made a brief appearance on the UK comedy quiz show Nevermind the Buzzcocks, very popular show. The show features a weekly segment called The Identity Parade, in which panelists are usually shown a clip of an old music video from a one-hit wonder, and then have to guess what the artist looks like today by correctly identifying them from a lineup of candidates in the studio. That's a great idea for a segment. I've seen Nevermind the Buzzcocks, but years ago. They didn't have this segment when I saw it. At least I don't remember it. I don't think it might just be one of those ones where I've just watched clips on YouTube, to be honest.
This is the way.
In this particular episode, the panelists were shown the cover of the Placebo album, and then they had to identify grown-up David Fox from the lineup. And yes, David was such a good sport that during the segment he delighted the audience by recreating the very same pose that had allegedly haunted him for 16 years. Again, though, this is a different thing. The childhood trauma is not adult trauma. If today a friend of mine was wearing a Placebo t-shirt and I said, what's Placebo? He'd be like, it's pronounced placebo. And I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. Thank you for telling me. What is Placebo? And he'd be like, they are a band. Would you like to hear some of their music? And I'd be like, yes, I will look that up on Spotify. Zero trauma because I'm not a child. But when you're a kid, it's obviously different, isn't it? It's like the Mr. Blobby thing. That guy was reacting to Mr. Blobby. People, that was it. Danny was like, Simon will be afraid of Mr. Blobby now. It's like, well, I was not afraid of Mr. Blobby. He's just creepy. But I don't find him creepy now, in a way that a scared child would. It's just, I see he was scary as a kid. He was scary. He was scary. But I'm not scared of it as an adult, because I'm an adult. It's not complicated. We never heard anything else about the threatened lawsuit. It's possible that David may have happily forgotten the trauma, after Nevermind the Buzzcocks paid him about 50 quid plus taxi expenses. Still, we've come a long way since the 1960s, when the mere sight of a Toilets album
really only get paid 50 quid to go on Nevermind the bus car? Oh my gosh, that is so low. Still, we've come a long way since the 1960s, when the mere sight of a toilet on an album cover was enough to spark a public outcry. £50? I remember when I was on, I didn't realize this was a big deal, but I was on Art Attack. It's a kids' television show where they make art stuff. I was on Art Attack as a kid, and I was like, I just assumed Art Attack was some small British show that no one had ever heard of, and everyone in the comments was like, you were on Art Attack? What the f***? And I tried desperately to find the episode, but I can't find it anywhere. It was the first thing I ever did on like TV or whatever. That sounds like I had a TV career. I didn't. I was just in a drama club as a kid and they needed people to be on this thing. And I was a kid who handed the dude, what was his face? Neil. He made this big montage of a guy with playing like a yo-yo at a school. And I had to go to the school and then there was the scene like before to set it up, and I think I was handing a yo-yo, like it had been confiscated by the teacher. So I was handing a yo-yo to a teacher, and I think there was a camera there, so I was really handing it to this big camera thing. I was like 11. It was a very long time. I think I got paid 25 quid. And I was like 11, and that was in the 1990s. So like, what's up, Nevermind? I can't believe it. Danny was just me making this up, and this has led to the longest tangent out ever. If anyone could find the episode of Art Attack, which I desperately searched the internet for, and allegedly piracy websites, I'd love to see that. The front cover featured all 4 members of the band. Oh wait. Still, we've come a long way since I read that already. If you can believe your eyes and ears was the name of the 1996 debut album from Californian folk rock hippies, the Mamas and the Papas. The front cover featured all 4 members of the band being crammed into the bathtub. This might initially sound a bit scary, but they were all fully clothed inside the empty bathtub. I'm not sure what's scary about that exactly. The bone of contention was the appearance of an innocent toilet right next to the bathtub, which seemed to be completely unacceptable for public consumption.
What the hell is even that?
Following complaints of indecency and obscenity, it's just a regular ass toilet, right? The record label managed to avoid legal action by hastily reissuing the album with a text box blocking off the view of the toilet, while later covers zoomed in on the occupied bath and cropped off the offending toilet entirely. For several decades, the rare original pressing of the album was worth a small fortune to collectors, fetching up to $1,000 a pop, but the collector's market was ultimately flushed away for good when the album was eventually reprinted with the original artwork depicting the toilet in its full graphic and shameless glory. I don't get it. Like, toilet? Wait. I feel like flushing a toilet for some reason was not kosher on TV for a really long time. But I have no idea why. The bigger question here is why the Mamas and the Papas opted for such a dreary photo shoot in the bathtub anyway, but this could be explained by photographer Guy Webster, who revealed that all 4 members of the band were too stoned out of their heads to even move, so all he could do for the album cover was dump them all in the bath. Holy Nowadays, the most offensive thing on the album cover is widely considered to be the distressingly unnecessary apostrophes in the name of the band, the Mamas and the Papas. That would imply possessive, right? Like mamas and the papas, but they would be plural, right? I don't understand apostrophes. Honestly, I don't even understand English. Sam, cue the meme!
Sir, yes, sir!
Excuse me, sorry, do you speak English?
No, I don't, sorry.
It's a mistake which nobody ever thought to correct in later reissues. You never catch such an appalling disrespect for grammar in the title of a Brain Blaze video, except you have multiple times. Not through Danny's fault, because Danny actually understands English. Look, he writes. I can barely write. And what I do is when I want to make it a bit more clickbaity, I'll often be like, yeah, there's an apostrophe goes there. Semicolon, don't even know what that's for, but let's put it there. Yeah. Someone once said that I use apostrophes like daggers. And I was like, thanks. Over the decades that followed, a long list of artists got caught up in an unexpected lawsuits over album covers, but the San Francisco experimental band Negativland appeared openly to invite legal action. Wait, what was up with the Mamas and the Papas? Did we finish that story? What's this video about? Litigious album covers? It wasn't litigious, and I want to know why we can't use the toilet. Danny, no! Back in 1991, the world was patiently waiting for the release of Achtung Baby, the first new U2 album in 3 years. And this was back in the days when you had to look out for a new U2 album in the record shops rather than just randomly appearing on your phone without permission. Yeah, for sake, Apple. But some fans may have been duped into believing that U2 had quietly released their new album
much earlier than expected. Negativland are a pretty obscure band who have been going since the 1970s and usually only sell a few thousand copies of their work to die-hard fans. When they released their new EP in 1991, they cheekily decided to give it the name U2, but they also went much further than that. The front cover featured the letters U2 in absolutely giant pink letters, which dominated you're inviting trouble, mate. Which dominated the entire... It'd be like me naming this video, like, Vsauce. It's like, what's this channel called? Vsauce Blaze. And me changing my name to Michael. Michael would probably reach out to me and be like, mate, what are you up to? Please don't do that. And then I'd be like, yeah, sorry, I guess I was smoking crack that day, Michael.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
And it'd be like, that's all right. Because Michael seems cool. And also I'd never do that because I'm not a bellend. But you're going to get in trouble with U2. The front cover featured the letters U2 in absolutely giant pink letters, which dominated the entire sleeve, while the band name was relegated to tiny lettering at the very bottom. To the untrained eye, it looked as if one of the biggest bands in the world had released a new album called Negativland. The only other image on the cover was a small depiction of the American Lockheed U2 spy plane in a possible attempt to justify the unusual naming of the EP, and also point out that Bono's band weren't the first property to fly under the name of U2. But they also went much further than that. The EP itself featured a cover of the U2 single I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, which contained every sampling of the original track with a bit of kazoo thrown into the new mix. What are you up to, guys? Another track, the letter U and the numeral 2, like the letter U and the numeral 2, just as text, included content taken from a leaked tape of American Top 40 host Carrie Kasem, in which the usually smooth and slick DJ is heard angrily ranting at his poor sound engineer and slagging off U2 as one of their records airs to the unfortunate public on his weekly chart countdown. Oh man. These are so savage. And when I see them, they always make me nervous because I'm like, oh god, that's definitely going to happen to me someday. Something will get left in the edit of me doing something like, ranting at someone or being like, oh, for fuck's sake, Danny! Although in this one I do actually genuinely rant, but in other ones, be like, oh no. I've run across awkward sentences and stuff where it's like, I'm sure the writer just wasn't, just missed it in the proof or whatever, and I'll just be like, learn to write! And I'll be like, that would be so embarrassing if that was leaked. But also, everyone gets, I don't know. If you don't get pissed off occasionally at tiny shit, then you're way too zen. You're way too zen. Okay, what are we talking about? Following the release of Negativland EP, there are reports that some branches of Tower Records in the US had fallen for the prank and was / money grab, were displaying the cover in their store windows under the misguided impression that it was the new U2 record. And it's no major surprise to learn that U2's label Island Records were quick to launch legal action, accusing Negativland of deliberately trying to mislead U2 fans, copyright infringement, trademark infringement, fraud, and defamation of character. Negativeland's small record label SST didn't have the funds to put up a big fight. They agreed to destroy all 12,000 copies of the EP, transferred ownership to Island, forked out a big chunk of the $90,000 in legal costs, which is more than the band had generated in over a decade, and then promptly dropped Negativland for giving them such a big bloody headache. Yeah, but the label also greenlit all that shit, didn't they? They paid for it. If they're meeting the legal costs, they're kind of responsible. That's how it works. So, but yeah, they'd still drop you because of course they would. In a further twist in 1992, the magazine Mondo 2000 secured a radio interview with U2's lead guitarist, The Edge, to promote the band's forthcoming Zoo TV tour. For a bit of a giggle, the magazine invited Don Joyce and Mark Hoster from Negativland to participate in the interview without initially revealing their identities to The Edge. That's a dick move, radio station! Joyce and Hoster questioned The Edge about his views on the use of sampling technology to the Zoo TV tour, and the lead guitarist indicated that he was happy with the concept of reworking existing material without need to secure permission from the original artist. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Sampling's a thing. It's allowed. People can react to videos if someone reacts to this video. Great, go ahead. That's alright. If it's you watching the video though, just watching it, sitting there, eating popcorn, then you, because that's not right, is it? And that's also the clear difference here. One is U2's not going to be sampling and then passing it off as a larger band, are they? Because they're U2. But it's different, isn't it? It's different. One is a genuine reaction video. One is someone watching popcorn and just having someone else's video up on the screen. One is cool, one is dickhead. Simple. And radio station for doing that. It's just low, it's just cheap. It's a cheap trick. He was game enough to carry on with the interview after Joyce and Hostler made their big reveal, good for you, The Edge. And he admitted that he felt Island Records a bit heavy-handed in their dealing with the case, which had not directly involved any member of the band. Shortly before wrapping up an encounter which The Edge, and I read his name like that on purpose because The Edge. The most surreal interview I've ever had in my life. Joyce and Hostler asked The Edge for a loan of $20,000, which they hoped to pay back in 9 months with 10% interest. The Edge said that he would consider the request, but he appears that he never spoke with the guys again. Yeah. Because anyone in that situation is like, imagine this. You come up to me and be like, Simon, I want to do whatever. I need like 20 grand. I'll be like, yeah, that's interesting. Let me see about that. And then I'd never talk to you again. All right? Maybe it was the combination of the cheeky cover and the sampled content which had pushed Negative Land a bit too far over the edge. Also, no one's just handing out 20 grand to someone they don't know. It's rumoured that the whole legal case was sparked by the sale of a single copy in Athens, Georgia, by the manager of REM, who alerted Island Records to the existence of the EP. But having compared the EP to U2's Acton Baby, which eventually landed in stores a couple of months later, I think there's a strong argument that the Negative Land EP is even better than the real thing. This has been an episode of Brain Blaze. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you are smashing that like button below and checking out our glorious sponsor Magellan TV. Thank you for watching.
In a stunning turn of events, a superhero is being sued